Chapter 4. The Shark. Inside the rectangular office, the noise of children could be heard outside, hurrying about and talking on their way to class. Inside this room, there was nothing but silence, as three people sat facing each other. The oldest person of the three was in front of the window, behind a dark wooden desk. A golden picture frame was displayed with a photo of a blonde woman holding a baby. Opposite stood one of those executive metal ball toys that, once started in motion, would not stop until held still. On the right was a smaller matching table with a computer and underwatered spider plant. Propped up on the left side of the room, next to the window, was a dark wooden bookcase filled to overflow with old dictionaries, thesauruses, and encyclopedias, which were all stacked neatly in alphabetical order. The man who was sat at his desk was Timothy Rowland, the headmaster, and he was facing a problem that he was unsure how to deal with. As he pondered, stroking his jet-black moustache, he tried to think how to defuse the situation with the least amount of trouble, keeping everyone happy with no suspensions or expulsions. He raised his big bushy eyebrows and then lowered them again. His thin pencil lips let out a puff of air, and then he finally admitted defeat. "Right then," he said in a cool, calm voice. "What's actually going on here?" He first directed this question towards a girl sitting very awkwardly on a chair to his left. She offered no reply. She firmly pressed her pouty lips together and tilted her head, her eyes falling towards the floor. If Mr. Rowland thought this was going to be easy, then he was very much mistaken. Chloe Matilda Draper was painfully shy and not big on small talk. Mr. Rowland looked to his right, where a different challenge altogether was sitting. He posed the same question to him. "You tell me. You drag me in here first thing this morning and want me to admit to crimes that haven't even been committed. Genius! Just genius!" he replied in a loud, patronising tone, raising his eyeline to the ceiling. This confident, narcissistic child was none other than Hunter Primitivo Montero, Blaine's identical twin, and he was not pleased that he had been summoned to the office like a common criminal. As the tall, thin girl sat there, her bushy, bright red fiery locks cascaded over her head and finished somewhere just below her shoulders, making her face look huge and her body look even skinnier. On the rare occasion when she made eye contact, you could see her eyes were a misty grey. Her skin was pale as ivory. All the fuss this morning was about her quite literal, odd outlook on life. Chloe's weirdness started at a very young age. Even as a 4-year-old in playgroup, she never truly fitted in. She just couldn't gel with other children. She was so quiet and timid, never attracting much attention, often ending up scaring the other toddlers when she suddenly appeared next to them. The mother of this strange little girl was Eugenia Draper, who believed her daughter was just socially awkward, and if left well enough alone, her child would find her place in the world. Mrs. Draper firmly believed that the key to a child's well-being was letting the child make its own mistakes and learn to deal with the consequences. She thought her child was unique and encouraged her to be who she was and not succumb to pressure to conform to the restrictive, limited standards of society. This method, however, was a double-edged sword. On one hand, Chloe was exceptional at ballet and music. Her imagination knew no bounds. But on the other hand, she was lonely and teased for not liking the same things as other children. Mrs. Draper alleged that television eradicated brain cells and refused to allow one into the house. Therefore, Chloe had nothing in common with her peers. Eugenia stood by her parenting technique. She was just about to move little Chloe to a new playgroup when a young boy of the name Mason McQueen, on his first day, walked straight up to the red-haired infant, and the two of them became instant friends. Wanting to know who this boy was, Eugenia Draper, with the same red hair as her daughters, walked across the room and bumped into Helen McQueen, and they too became immediate acquaintances. As the two children grew older, they drifted apart. Mason was a typical boy, always wanting to play outside in the mud, while Chloe stayed inside, listening to classical music, which was another thing that set her aside from other children. Her parents were absolutely thrilled when she asked for a violin on her 7th birthday, and soon the pair of them only saw each other at school. Now 14, Chloe had entered a new league of peculiarity. She was going to sleep in her bed as normal every night, and waking up in bizarre locations. 3 times she had found herself in the McQueen's dusty and cluttered attic. "It's all right, my love. I know why you're here. It's my magnetism," Mason's mum had whispered, cradling Chloe to her bosom. This was very distressing. Chloe's mother found her asleep twice in her wardrobe and accused her of staging her own kidnapping. A policeman had brought her home once after finding her in an underpass on the other side of town, and Mrs. Draper was far from amused when Marion's Grace had rung at 6:30 in the morning, asking her to collect Chloe from her garden shed. Attention-seeking or a genuine cry for help, the disorientated girl would not and could not answer. Last Friday morning, Chloe was found in a place that she could not talk her way out of, even if she wanted to. Cramped and squeezed into a small space, surrounded by her familiar possessions, Chloe banged loudly on the wall of her prison. It was an hour before she was set free by Royston Skinner, the caretaker of Darwin Grammar. Chloe had woken up inside her school locker. The caretaker informed the headmaster, and he leapt to the same conclusion as everyone else would have. Chloe's recent abnormal behaviour was clearly the result of school bullying, and one name instantly shot into Mr. Rowland's head: Hunter Montero. Wishing he was somewhere else, Hunter's gaze remained firmly on the ceiling tiles as he daydreamed. This boy was a mirror image of Blaine, with one big difference. Where Blaine's mop of hair covered his forehead, Hunter styled his hair into a mini mohawk, but looks can be very deceiving. The oldest of the Montero boys by just 3 minutes, he had one single goal in life, and that was to gain as much power as possible. Like the old anecdote says, if you can work the system can work for you. Hunter believed that if you can own the system, you can do whatever you damn well please. Hunter's comprehension was that school was one big game, with mammals thrown into a confined space and left to sort themselves out into order of popularity. If this were the period of Neanderthal man, then the strongest would be at the top giving the orders. Times had changed though, and things were somewhat more complicated. Firstly, he knew he had an unfair advantage. He had the same strong muscular frame that his brother had inherited from his father, and being a twin, had the exact same dashing good looks. Every child in school dreamed, at least once, what it would be like to have Hector and Lola Montero as their parents, showering them with gifts for achieving high exam marks or winning a match. But it wasn't enough for people to want to be like him. He wanted people to want to be him. Money may be deemed the root of all evil, but at school it gave you status. Uniforms were a great equalizer, giving the impression that everyone was alike. But this went against Hunter's master plan for school total domination. He studied the school's dress code and found a simple loophole. Every item of clothing was specified, but there was no mention of a coat. So the next day, Hunter was seen strutting around the corridors in a brand new black leather designer jacket, costing almost £1,000. If knowledge was power, then he would make sure he was the smartest of them all. He and his brother were amongst the top academic achievers, but he always managed to beat Blaine by 1 or 2%, proving he was indeed the superior twin. Everyone loves a winner, and Hunter had spent more than his fair share of time in the spotlight on all the successful teams. A big part was down to him, but he wanted the prettiest girl in school on his arm, and to be the biggest fish in the pond, hence the nickname, the Shark. Most importantly, he wanted to leave this place an absolute legend. The necessity to tread carefully in these situations led Mr. Rowland to open with a casual observation. Hunter, I have witnessed you antagonizing Miss Draper in the corridors on many occasions, so don't deny it. If you aren't the cause of Chloe's torment, then please tell me who is? Hunter looked around, unimpressed, and couldn't believe how uninformed Mr. Rowland was. Timothy, he began his speech. The headmaster coughed. Changing his tact, considering the personal approach was pushing his luck a bit too far, he started again. Sir, if you wish to find the culprit, you'll need to interrogate everyone who picks on Drippy Draper. And that literally is everyone. He stopped, turning to Chloe, and apologised. No offence. If you expel all the children who have ever teased her, you're not going to have any students left to teach, Hunter continued. Mr. Rowland lay back in his chair. Or maybe, Mr. Montero, the situation is more simple than any of us realise. Boys who tease girls secretly fancy them. Mr. Rowland, you've done it again! You've seen through my cunning plan to commit reputation suicide. Bravo! Hunter congratulated, with a sudden outburst of applause. Then why hack Miss Draper's social network account? The headmaster challenged. Calmly, Hunter replied, I was merely pointing out the predictable follies of using a password, like your favourite pop star. Mr. Rowland challenged further. Then why not just tell her? Why change her status to, I, Chloe Draper, like eating strawberry laces, they make my hair extra red, my bogies taste sweet, and also Hunter Montero rocks. He waited for a response, but Hunter just sat there nodding and grinning, muttering, He sure does. Frustrated and annoyed by 14-year-old Hunter's refusal to show any kind of remorse to his actions, Mr. Rowland now interrogated him. "And I suppose you thought you were funny when you changed her password and informed everyone at school that she was in a relationship with Brian Headcase Harrington, the old school caretaker." "Wait, he was actually real? You mean to say this guy did exist and worked here?" Hunter's interest was sparked. Brian Harrington was an urban legend around school, tales passed down through the years. If there were a suspicious rustle in the bushes, locked doors magically became unlocked, or an odd turn of events occurred that couldn't be explained, it was always blamed on Headcase Harrington, who must have escaped from the mental hospital and come home. "Do you think it's funny to mock the mentally inflicted? Are you completely void of human compassion? Manners cost nothing. Why don't you get some and grow up?" Mr. Rowland asked, disapprovingly. Hunter stared the headmaster in the eye, and with his last shred of patience exhausted, offered Mr. Rowland an ultimatum that struck right to his weakness. "If you want to blame me, then go for it. Expel me. I don't care. However, you must realise, if I go, so does my brother. My parents wouldn't want to separate us, and they certainly wouldn't want to be separated from any more of their money. Good luck with the donations and winning any more sports trophies. You can also watch your national test score averages fall as well. Or is this your subterfuge, to commit reputation suicide for the school?" Mr. Rowland didn't know how to act, and was shocked to his core. Never before in 13 years of teaching, 7 months as the headmaster, was he ever spoken to in such a way by a pupil. What was worse, that this spoilt child was absolutely right. If the Montero children were to defect to the rival school, Darwin Grammar would suffer dearly. The deafening silence spoke volumes. Hunter knew his words had done the job, rendering him seemingly untouchable. "Please, give me a name. Who stuffed you in your locker?" Mr. Rowland spoke to Chloe in a friendly voice, but the girl who wanted to go and hide under a rock still gave no reply. "Is this what it is all about?" Hunter asked, shocked. "Draper gets boxed and you blame me, just because I hacked her password. A school computer wasn't used, and it wasn't even during school time. I've been singled out with no evidence. This is blatant victimization, and I'm the victim." "Trust me," Mr. Rowland snapped. "You, Mr. Montero, have never been the victim." Hunter was on a roll, and he decided to work in a quote from a favourite film. "Oh, and trust me, the school governors and the PTA will be hearing all about this. If you want to take down this shark, Mr. Rowland, you're going to need a bigger boat." Mr. Rowland was now enraged. Although he knew it was against his better judgment, he felt he had no other option but to give scare tactics a go. "No one will take your word over mine. Do as you please. But you will treat me and your fellow pupils with respect. You don't own this school, little boy, and you've upset a lot of parents' children over the years. I know what they really think of you. I knew this day would come, and I've got a file on you as long as my arm. I can easily make stuff up too. I can be very inventive, and when I let your parents see what type of child you really are, they will want your influence as far away from Blaine as possible. They will pay me to recommend the strictest boarding school for you. Now, get out of my office." With a pleasant demeanour, Mr. Rowland bluffed. Hunter was absolutely seething. He wouldn't dare, he thought, as he slipped on his expensive jacket. He grabbed at the door handle. Mr. Rowland decided to throw in a quote of his own from his favourite movie. "Oh, and frankly, Mr. Montero, I don't give a damn." Avoiding eye contact, Hunter swung open the door in an angry rage and walked out, nearly knocking over the tall potted ficus plant in the corner. Chloe sat like a statue, frozen, the action happening all around her. She was irritated that Hunter could make storming out look cool. As the door automatically slammed shut, it was now just the two of them. Chloe then did the one thing she thought she would never do this morning, and that was smile, as Mr. Rowland opened up his desk drawer and pulled out a packet of her much-loved strawberry laces. These long red sugary strips of candy were Chloe's favourite indulgence, and she always had a supply of these hidden in various locations. Her mother outlawed junk food from the house, as she agreed with the Prime Minister's views that the additives were contributing to the erratic behaviour of the nation's youth. "So, Chloe," Mr. Rowland asked, "how goes your violin and ballet lessons?" sliding open the open packet. She crammed a couple into her mouth and received a sugary strawberry fix. Speaking with her mouth slightly full, She changed the subject. They all call me Chloe Draper. I can't help having allergies. I'm allergic to everything. I doubt that's true. Will antihistamines not ease your symptoms at all? The headmaster inquired. Chloe shook her head. I refuse to take drugs. Mr. Rowland smiled. I think you're a little misinformed. I'll get the school nurse to explain to you and your parents and see if we can eradicate your allergies, along with that little nickname. Chloe started to smile again. She told the headmaster that her violin teacher was proud to be putting her in for the next exam grade, and ballet classes were the best thing in the world. She loved them, and it felt like she was floating on a cloud because she was happiest whenever she danced. Mr. Rowland's hands were tied, and he was powerless to act. Normally, he would be pressured by the parents to sort this matter out straight away, but Chloe's mum and dad believed that no good would come out of the situation if they intervened. Only by standing up for herself would she become a stronger individual. Just give me a name, Mr. Rowland pleaded, and I can make this stop. If it is Hunter, don't think you have to protect me from the school board. The safety of my students always comes first. Chloe's face started to scrunch up, and her eyes became watery. I can't. I just can't, she blurted out. Okay then, Mr. Rowland said, now trying to calm her down. Please remember, my door is always open, and we can talk over a packet of strawberry laces whenever you're ready. She got up, clumsily collecting her things. She struggled to open the big door that Hunter made look so easy. With her big backpack over her shoulders, she wobbled at first, until she regained balance, making a dash into the main corridor. Before the door could catch her as it closed, she quickly made her way to first lesson.